second grade. It's good to see you again. Let's go ahead and hit that learning target, find out what we're going to learn today, and then dive right in. I can measure objects using different units of measure. I can compare those measurements. Yes, it's very similar to what we did yesterday. In fact, it's almost exactly the same, except for our units are going to be a little different. We're going to measure the length specifically of each of these objects that we are diving into today. And when we think about our units, yesterday we were using centimeters and inches, and then we compared centimeters and meters. Today we're going to look at inches and feet, and then we'll even dive into some yards and look at those units of measure. We're also going to be comparing those measurements. So you can see my little T-chart here I've got going. We started that yesterday with our work. If you remember, we're comparing those centimeters and inches. We're doing very similar again today. But I'm writing the object down here, how many inches, then how many feet. Now, before we get started, what do we know about inches? About how long is an inch? Okay, so when I look at an inch, when I look at your fingers, it's about the length of your thumb. When I look at my thumb, it's just this last little pad part of my thumb, okay? So when you're measuring, think about how long your thumb is. When I was measuring my first graders, almost second graders, it was almost their whole thumb. But for me, it's just that little part. So we're going to be using the length of our thumb to give us a little idea of what that inch would be if you don't, by chance, have a ruler on hand. I hope that you do, but if you don't, you can use that to help remember. So I'm going to draw this little inch and draw that little thumb. It's not exact, right? But it's the length of that thumb, just to kind of help give us that memory, okay? What about feet? Are we talking about these feet that I've got? No, we're not talking about our feet on the bottom of our legs. We're talking about a foot. And remember from last week, our foot is 12 of these inches. Flip that over. 12 inches long. That's pretty long, isn't it? On your body, that goes from about your elbow pit to the tips of your fingers. On my body, it goes from my elbow to the palm of my hand, okay? So you can use your elbow to your fingers to help measure that. That's about a foot for you second graders. For us adults, it might look a little different. Elbow to fingertips for you, okay? But that's about a foot. So if you didn't have a ruler on hand, you could use that to help you, okay? Again, that's a pretty long measurement. So I'm going to and we're talking from there to there for our second grade friends, okay? And we'll keep bringing these body measurements up to help us, especially tomorrow when we start estimating. But this will give you a little idea as you begin working, okay? All right. Our learning target says what? We're going to measure the length of objects using different units. We'll start out with these inches and feet to measure, and then we're going to compare those measurements. So I have some fun objects to measure, and I'm going to give you all a chance to go measure some things as well, okay? So we're going to start off thinking about some different tools, okay? Now, or not tools, objects. I'm looking for objects that are at least 1 foot long for this activity because I want to measure how many feet they are. And that was a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be, to find something that was at least 1 foot long. So I found a shelf. That was the first thing that I decided to measure. Now you guys can find all sorts of things. Maybe you find a stick in the backyard. Maybe you have a measure, your mom or your dad or your grandma or somebody in the kitchen has a big old serving spoon that you want to measure. Maybe you're going to measure a big old book. Maybe you want to measure the length of your bed from side to side or from head to foot like I measured mine yesterday. Maybe you want to measure your computer or your kitchen table. You could measure anything as long as it's over 1 foot long today. Now, for the work from yesterday, you could measure some smaller units around the house, and I hope you did some measuring. This is what I'm going to measure first. Now, this shelf, my brain just went, oh, I need to use my ruler. Now, help me out. What are some things that I need to do, that I need to remember as I'm measuring something with my standard unit of measure and this tool called a ruler? Do I start with my 1? You guys, no, I start with my 0. Okay, so I'm gonna line up, and I gotta make sure I'm on my inch side, not my centimeter side. Okay, I've got my 0. Everybody see my 0 lined up there on that end? And then what am I gonna do? I'm gonna go straight across, right? I'm not slanting down, going straight across, and I'm seeing where it stops. Holy guacamole, that's almost perfect, isn't it? What do you see it landing on? 12 inches. How long is my shelf? 12 inches. I'm gonna make sure that I record. Here's my shelf. Okay, and when I measured it, this is not my exact measure, right? But you all told me it was 12 inches. Starting at 0, this is my unit of measure, inches, and I needed 12 of those inches in order to get to the end. My object is my shelf, and yes, I'm writing it twice because it helps me see my everything in one place, but also helps me kind of keep track. Now, I can use 2 different tools to help me measure how many feet my shelf is. First of all, I know from you looking at our measurement vocabulary chart that my ruler is the same as 12 inches on it, and I know that my foot is the same as 12 inches. So if my foot is the same as 12 inches, then my shelf would be how long? 1 foot, okay? It would be 1 foot long. So I have to change that. It's not feet, it's foot. Okay, 1 foot long, 12 inches. The other tool I can use that I always want to break out for you all is this guy right here, our yardstick. And our yardstick will show you also, in case you're not sure, where your feet are, okay? So we know that 1 foot is 12 inches. Then my next foot would be at the 24, and then my last would be at my 36, okay? There's actually 3 feet in one of my yards. So I would get to that 1 foot mark using my yardstick, okay? Again, starting at that 0. There isn't a 0 on my yardstick, but there is a line before the one line that right at the beginning of that measure, at the beginning of this measuring tool. You can see it up close there, really good, right there. So I know that's going to be 1 foot long. Now, this is only one object. Do you have objects around your house that are about 1 foot? Maybe a notebook? Maybe a big book? Oh, I've seen some of my wooden spoons are about 1 foot long. Absolutely. Now, ready for the next challenge? I have, where did it go? Ribbon. Now, I have lots of this ribbon. It's not the same length of the ribbon that I used last week. Let's take a peek at this ribbon. Now, can I measure my ribbon all swayy like that when I'm measuring how long it is? No, I can't. What do I need to do to be able to measure my ribbon? I need to straighten it out. Yes. What else do I need to do? Yeah. So I've got a bit of a challenge in place. I'm actually going to use my yardstick to measure this, and I'm going to be looking at my inches side first. I'm going to do that because, let me show you what I was doing earlier. I was using my ruler. Now my ruler is just fine for this task, okay? But let me show you my challenge. When I was measuring my ruler, and you guys might find this too, I got to the end and look, I still had more to measure. So I had to bring this guy down here, and I had to go there, and then I had to bring this here, and I had to pull it tight there. Now, did I get it? Yeah. But I felt like I could be more exact or more precise by really stretching it out along my yardstick. When I use my yardstick, I can start it at the top. Let me show you what I mean. Okay. And I can stretch it on down. Take a peek at that. And what do you notice? It's the length of my yardstick, isn't it? Now, it might be a hair short. It's about how many inches long? 36 inches. Holy guacamole. 36 inches. Woo! Now, let's look at that again, because that will also show us how many feet. Stretch, 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 stretch. What number's below that? 3. So how many feet long is my ribbon? It's 3 feet long. Now look at this long ribbon. Can you see some things around your house that are about 3 feet long? The width of my kitchen table is about 3 feet long from side to side. Not the length, but the side. It's a rectangular table, so it's long here, short here. The short sides are about 3 feet long. You know what? My easel at school is about 3 feet long. Do you know what else is about 3 feet long? Check this out. Oh, I thought it was about 3 feet long. This is a little bit shorter than 3 feet long, isn't it? My chart paper. Okay. My chart paper with the top part is much closer to 3 feet long. Our tables at school, our round tables, are about 3 feet from side to side. And our bookshelves at school, too, are about 3 feet long. Now, let's take a peek at this. 36 inches, 3 feet. What do you notice, my friends? If our thoughts from yesterday were that the smaller the unit, the more we need. Is this true? Which is the smaller unit? My inches are our smaller unit. Do we need more inches than feet? Yep, our 12 is more than our 1, isn't it? Our 36 is more than our 3. We are needing more of these than we are of these. There's a big difference between this inch and this foot. It's even a bigger difference from this inch to that centimeter. There's a much bigger difference between those two units. All right, last thing I want us to measure, piece of fabric. Oh, here's my fabric. Isn't that pretty? I use it for my stools at school. All right, now I need your help. How many inches long is my fabric? Should I use my ruler or should I use my yardstick? Why do you think I should use my yardstick? I wouldn't have to try to keep track of it, would I? I could hold it and measure it once instead of trying to measure it twice. Okay, any other thoughts? Okay, so when I'm measuring it, if I use my yardstick, I do not have to measure it twice. If I use my ruler, I've got to start it here. I've got to do this, And then I've got to move it down. I can do that, can't I? And then see where it lands. And I probably get the same answer, but it'll be a lot more efficient to do it this way, wouldn't it? So let's try it out. Takes me quite a minute though. Let me start at my 0. Oof, not my 36. Started at my 0. Pull it tight. And what do you notice? Where does it land? 24 inches. 24 inches. How many feet do you think that would be? With my fabric. 24 inches. How many feet would that be? I'm going to give you guys just a minute or two to think about that. How many inches or how many feet would that be? You can use your rulers as well. How many rulers long would that be? Show me with your fingers how many that would be. Who else said 2? If I started at my 0, there's the 1. And then I gotta come here. And I gotta pull it tight again. And that's my 2nd. Okay? When I pull it on my thing and I get to 24, you can see that 2 down there. 12 plus 12 equals 24. So there's only 2 feet. What do you notice? Do I need more inches than I do feet? I sure do. Now, last thing I'm going to do, and this time we're going to do some yards, okay? Now, with my yards, we are measuring very big things. So I was measuring my classroom the other day, and it was 4 yards long, okay? My classroom. So now we're going to think about our yards. Remember yesterday we started looking at centimeters and meters? Today we're going to think about yards and feet. Now, before I go any farther, we're going to go back to be thinking about our bodies, okay? So remember, a foot is about, for you 2nd grade little friends, is about from your elbow to the tips of your fingers, okay? A yard, when I measured my almost 2nd grade kiddos, and they stretched their arms out, they were wrist to wrist with their arms stretched out. So think about this side to this side stretched out was 1 yard. That's about 4 of those was about how long my classroom was. Pretty big, right? 4 kids long with their arms stretched out like that, okay? 4 yards my classroom was. I'm going to draw a picture, and I'm going to draw the little feet, and we're going to measure it from here to here for 1 yard, okay? Stretched out. Okay, now, 4 yards long. How many feet would 4 yards long be? Think about this. Each yard has 3 feet in them. How could I write an equation to help us figure out how many feet long my classroom was? Okay, so my classroom, 1 yard, 2 yards, 3, and we'll make that a little bit longer, 4 yards, okay? Is this long? How many feet is that? How many feet is in the first set of yards? 3 feet there. How many would be in the second one? 3 feet there. 3 feet there. and 3 feet there. Ooh, how many feet is that? Show me in your notebooks. How many feet is that? Thumbs in front of your tummies when you think you know. 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. How did you get 12? How did you get 12? Okay, 3 plus 3 is 6. And that 3 plus 3 is 6. And 6 plus 6 equals 12 feet. Oh, are feet shorter or smaller than yards? This is a foot. This is a yard. Is this a smaller unit? It is. 12 of these to make 4 of these. Do we need more than that? 12 feet, 4 yards. Very good. I had to get some more of this fabric because I needed to make some more benches and more feet or more seats. And guess what? When I ordered it, I had 36 feet of it. 36 feet. Now, there are 3 in here. How many yards would that be? How many yards would that be? 36. 4 yards for 12, right? What if I had 12 more feet? That'd be 24. And then I'd have to have 12 more. When I start thinking about 36 feet, I could even use my measuring tape to help me figure that out. But 36 would be 3 of these. 12 plus 12 plus 12 equals 36. So if I have 3 groups of 12, then I need 12 yards of fabric. 12 of these to make 36 of these. Do I still need more feet than yards? Does my smaller unit still need more than my bigger unit? Am I measuring different objects? Is my fabric that was 36 feet different than the fabric that was 12 yards? Mm-mm. Was my room that was measured 4 yards, was that a different room that was measuring 12 feet? It wasn't. My fabric that you saw me measuring, 2 feet, 24 inches. Was it different? It's the same fabric. We were still measuring the same object. That was not changing. What was changing was the units that we were using. 2nd grade, we want you to be thinking about the units that we're measuring. It's so important that we label the units because 12 feet and 12 yards are 2 very different measurements. They're 2 very different lengths. 2 feet is very different than the 2 inches that it might be to measure this little guy. It's not the same as 2 feet. So when we make sure that we're measuring and we're labeling the units, because as we compare those units, we realize that the smaller the unit, the more we need to measure. Before you head off, measuring my laptop. Now, I could measure it lots of different ways, right? Which unit would I need the most of to measure this laptop? Would I need the most feet? Would I need the most inches? Or would I need the most centimeters? Which one would I need the most of? And how do you know? Remember, as you're measuring, label those units and be thinking, how many of these do I need to measure? How many centimeters do I need to measure something that's 1 inch? How do those units change depending on what units I use and the number of units that I used? Happy measuring, and remember, which unit do I need the most of to measure this? Centimeters, inches, or feet? And how do you know? Happy measuring!